Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. It begins in the present day with the vampire Lestat narrating his own story. After growing lonely in his immortality, he decided to slumber in his tomb for 2 centuries but soon gets woken by the loud noises of the modern age. It's become worthwhile to rise once again now that the world's developed a healthy nightlife, and after he drinks some unlucky fellow dry, Lestat feels more revitalized than he has in 200 years. He returns to his former manor to find the source of the music that woke him, coming from a young band headed by Morty. Revealing his ice-cold touch and speed, he divulges his secret to the group as being an immortal and uses his talents to make them a famous band called the Vampire Lestat. As the frontman to the other members James, Alex and TC, Lestat contains hidden meanings in his lyrics intended to stir up trouble with humans and vampires. He becomes a controversial figure who rarely appears in public and never during the day, appearing only at press conferences where the media question him as if the whole vampire thing's fake and that it's all a joke. Lestat's trying to call out other vampires and broadcast to the world that the immortals must find him at his upcoming concert in Death Valley, California. All of the vampires from across the country want him silenced for outing them, but Lestat's fallen into a depression and doesn't care, as he'd rather be dead than lonely. In the meantime, he has mortals brought to his manor who are told that they're here to give blood but don't seem to take Roger seriously. They just assume Lestat's keeping up the act in front of them until he climbs up the wall onto the ceiling, revealing himself to be a real vampire. Elsewhere, a young mortal woman named Jessie picks up on clues in Lestat's lyrics, having grown up with a vampire aunt herself. She wanted to become an immortal when she was younger, but her aunt Maharet refused and sent her away to protect her. 20 years later, she deciphers the location of a vampire nightclub from Lestat's lyrics to be within an old English pub called the Admiral's Arms. Jessie's a member of a secret society that's obsessed with learning about vampires and is led by the expert David Talbot. He informs Jessie that they are aware of Lestat's unprecedented attempt to shine a light on fellow vampires, but his ultimate target's that of the ancient Marius. David's found Lestat's journal, which he gives to Jessie to read, and she learns that Marius is the vampire who sired him into immortality over 200 years ago. The 1600-year-old painter wanted to have a link to the ever-changing outside world, so he made Lestat his vampire apprentice. He taught him how to hunt in the shadows, but Lestat wanted to be seen and heard by mortals, not remain hidden away on some Mediterranean island. One night when Lestat tried to learn the violin from a gypsy girl, he accidentally revealed himself to her father and was forced to kill them to keep their secret. Over the years, he learns to play the violin beautifully, and while Marius is out painting on the beach one evening, Lestat stumbles across a hidden chamber beneath his mentor's bedroom. Inside's the vampire queen Akasha and her slumbering king in a statue-like state, so he begins to play her some music. She wakes up at the sound and offers him her ancient blood, which he drinks, and gets a rush of history before passing out and being found later by Marius. He chains Lestat to the bed out of jealousy that in all the years Marius has watched over her slumber, he's never once seen her move. Akasha's the maker of all vampires, and together with her lover drank the ancient world dry, until the king lost his nerve, so the queen locked them away until she could find someone better. With the young Lestat proving to be more trouble than he's worth, Marius decided to abandon him and take the sleeping gods elsewhere. David hoped that the journal would satisfy Jessie's curiosity, but it's made her even more intrigued by Lestat, so she sets out to the Admiral's Arms in the old section of London. Just like she thought, it's clearly a vampire coven, but her confidence in walking through it means that none of them bother her. Eventually, a group of club vampires begin harassing Jessie, so she claims to be property of Marius to protect herself, but none of the kids even think the ancient ones exist and follow her outside. Also in the bar is Lestat, who overhears his mentor's name, only to have to save Jessie when she's nearly devoured by the vampires who scatter when confronted. Jessie tells her savior that she's read his journal, which the immortal seems to forget he even wrote, let alone where he left it. He tastes the mortal's blood and calls her a clever librarian for knowing so much, but when questioned about the girl's violin from the story, Lestat thinks that maybe she knows a little too much. After leaving her alone in London, he returns to once again play the treasured instrument that he hasn't picked up in ages. Jessie resolves to follow the vampire to Los Angeles, where the band has their concert in 3 days, but David warns her not to go. He says they've learned that the vampires have grown angry with their secrets being revealed and are planning to kill Lestat, but Jessie ignores the warning and goes anyway. 3 days before the band plays in the valley, Lestat wakes to a painting that's been delivered by the resurfacing Marius. He still wears red velvet 200 years later and says that it's become impossible to avoid Lestat's name in conversation as he's becoming bigger than Elvis. They sit on the side of a Vampire Lestat billboard where Marius's excommunicated apprentice talks about how much the mortals worship him. It's because of this that Marius has come here to warn Lestat that their queen Akasha has heard his music and has risen to find him. She's killed her king to absorb his power, but despite the warning, Lestat still goes through with his concert as he isn't concerned for his safety. Meanwhile in England, Akasha follows Lestat sent to the Admiral's arms just to find a watered-down version of her species. The same club vamp who attacked Jesse says that he's going to kill Lestat after hearing the new girl's looking for him. So Akasha lures him onto the dance floor where she rips out his heart and drinks it dry. Marius calling her a god now makes sense when the vampire queen begins setting the room on fire with just a wave of her hand. She returns to her search for Lestat while in Los Angeles. Jesse already tracked him down and enters his penthouse as an offering. When recognizing the English girl, he sends the other blood bag away and asks why she's come if not to just return his journal. Jesse wants to become immortal and spends the following night with Lestat, who attempts to talk her out of it despite wanting to be with her. He says that her mortality is what makes her so attractive to him, and when she still tries to make him bite her, he resists and takes it even further. He locates some woman about to become a vampire's dinner and violently kills her himself in front of Jesse to put her off wanting the dark gift. The night of the concert, thousands of mortals and vamps alike gather in Death Valley to either celebrate or to try kill Lestat. David's also attending and briefly comes face to face with Marius, who joins the other ancient vampires in seeing what plays out tonight. Jesse's come to see the live performance and Lestat descends to begin putting on a show for some less than impressed local vampires. They attempt to silence the singer, who defends himself, sending the mortal band running in fear, but the arriving Marius helps his old friend fight off the lesser vamps and enjoys having the spotlight on him for once. They defeat dozens of vampire assassins while the crowd cheers until Akasha finally arrives, burning all of the remaining attackers. As Jesse's abducted by the ancient vampire Mael, the queen makes an explosive entrance and rises up from the stage. She takes Lestat and flies him to an island resort to be alone, where Akasha tells him that she plans to make him her new king for his desire to be famous, unlike the others who wish to hide in the shadows. She sires in Lestat with a mixture of lovemaking and blood drinking, which allows him to walk in the sunlight, but it's known to the ancient vampires to weaken Akasha afterwards. She's killed the entire island populace and offers Lestat a kingdom of corpses, but he instantly becomes less interested in her proposal as he loves the public. Meanwhile, Jesse wakes in the house where she lived with her aunt as a child and sees that Maharet hasn't aged a day. The elder says that before Akasha made her a vampire, she had a mortal daughter who continued her legacy all the way down to Jesse. Because of this, Maharet has developed a massive family tree of humans, so all of the vampire elders have gathered to make a plan to defeat Akasha and protect them. When asked by Jesse what about Lestat, Marius says that he's already lost to them as the doors of the manor blow open. They're interrupted by the queen and her new king's arrival, who's disappointed to see her children plotting against her. The group first try to convince them that they can live harmoniously with humans, but Akasha reinstates that they're nothing more than food and tells Lestat to kill Jesse. With the threat of killing Maharet, Jesse just allows it to happen, and the queen laughs at the girl's failure to put up any resistance. Convinced at his absolute obedience to her, Akasha allows Lestat to drink from her again to show the others the gift they're missing, but he doesn't stop. The elders Armand and Pandora stand by with Cayman waiting for the signal, and when Lestat has Akasha weak enough, she throws him away and the whole group jump her. Mael's instantly dusted, but the rest are able to bite the queen and begin drinking her blood while her abilities are reduced. Pandora also falls in the battle after taking the next cast and Armand's hit with her spell, but by now Akasha's powers have weakened completely, allowing him to continue. Now utterly powerless, she attempts to kill Lestat but is unable to, and he drinks her blood until being stopped. Whoever drinks the last drop of the vampire queen's blood's made to slumber forever as punishment for killing their god, so Maharet takes the betrayal upon herself and is turned into stone to protect the others. As Jesse's family tree bleeds for their losses, Akasha turns into ashes and blows away before the few surviving ancients. To resurrect Jesse, Lestat gives her his blood, making her an immortal, and they pay a visit to David as we see that the concert was covered up by the media. After returning the diary knowing that the historian would want it, Jesse offers him immortality, but he says that he's too old to live forever. They pass Marius on their way out, who enters well aware of David's obsession over him and possibly turns him anyway. The vampire couple walk down the street as time passes rapidly, and the movie ends with a tribute to their queen.